tuwajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali,
Mr. George Barresta to give us welcome remarks. From the Republic of Kenya. Distinguished guests present today, all protocols observed. As they mentioned by Maurice, I'm George Barresta from the Republic of Kenya. Now I've been given this honor to give opening remarks, really just to invite us to this very important occasion where we're celebrating a report that is about a very important segment of society, that is children. Once there was a singer called Bob Marley, those who know him, he once said that the biggest man you'll ever see was once but a small baby. So we all begin from that very vulnerable and humble beginning. But when we grow up, we forget, and we think that we just happened as adults. Children are very important in society. And so today, as we celebrate this report, it is important to note that it gives us the opportunity not only to celebrate, but as well to reflect on how far have we gone, what have we achieved as a society. Because many a times, society will lament at evil things that befall us, and in most cases they befall us as adults, and we forget one important fact, that the building blocks to what we see happening in society begins from children. If we give children the opportunity, if we give them the right environment to grow up well, then society is assured. But if children are not accorded with the rights, as of course they shine in the African Charter, then of course we will expect society that is full of misfits, society that is in conflict with itself, such that contradicts what it's meant to be. So then, today, as we celebrate, I want to urge us all that we reflect on the journey that we have taken so far. Remember that this report is about the African the child policy, and of course in the child policy we've come up with 10 priority areas, and these areas, these 10 priority areas, are supposed to assure that children are safe, that in the community children are brought up in a safe and secure environment. However, I'm sure that not all those priority areas are realized in the same level. There could be others that are lagging behind, and this could be attributed probably to challenges that we face, and mainly inadequate maybe resources. And therefore, I would also take this opportunity to appeal to our partner states, to appeal to donor community, to please support these priority areas, so that we can all realize what we set out to do in terms of supporting these children. And I also want to just briefly mention that we're living in very interesting times. This is the times of COVID-19, and we are all aware what this pandemic has done to humanity since it was declared sometime in March last year. And children have also bore the brunt of this pandemic. They have, of course, suffered the ravages that it has caused society. So it's not lost on us that children require attention during this period. Sometimes they are caught up maybe with their parents who have been tested, maybe they are positive. They have to be sent to the quarantine. What happens to the children? Who takes care of them? They end up in quarantine with the parents, and if they're there, what happens to the rights? How are their rights assured? So those are challenges that as a community we need to be alive to. And finally, I want to thank you so much for those who came up with this report. I want to thank the Secretariat. I want to thank our partner states for your cooperation, the donor for engaging, the consultant for putting together this document to enable us today gather here to celebrate this very important occasion. Thank you so much. I want now to take this opportunity to welcome you all, and please feel free, and wish you a very fruitful engagement today. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. George Barasa. Here we know him as the chairperson, because he has been chairing our session the whole week. Thank you so much, Chair. I now call upon Dr. Joan Nyanyuki, the Executive Director, African Child Policy Forum, ACPF. She will be joining us online and give us her answers.
Good morning, can you hear me? Good morning, Maurice, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
All right, excellent.
Yes,
could somebody put on, okay, great. Could you put on my video as well? I think you have control over my video from your end. I would like to speak with my video on, if you can do that. Because it says the host has stopped it. So let's get the technology up and running. The mic is good, the video please. All right. Okay, all right. If that's not something simple to do, I will proceed.
Yes, you can.
Honorable Christophe Bazivamo, Deputy Secretary General, Productive and Social Sectors, the EAC Secretariat, representative of the chairperson of the EAC Council of Ministers, delegates from the partner states, representatives from the EAC Secretariat, our friends and our partners, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, those in the room and those joining us remotely, good morning, hamujambo, habari za asubuhi. I wish to start by extending a warm welcome to all of you on this occasion when we are reminded of the day when East Africa Community's child policy came into effect in August 2016, when member states affirmed their shared commitment to the aspiration of one people, one destiny in advancing children's rights within our countries. Here we are, 5 years have passed, and we are taking stock of the progress we have made, the challenges we have encountered, but most importantly, learning from each other's experiences in translating the East Africa Child Policy into practice. I will start by recognizing the critical role that regional economic communities, such as the EAC, play in the promotion and protection of the rights and well-being of children in their respective regions and partner states. We are pleased at the African Child Policy Forum to note that in recent years, the regional economic communities have gone beyond facilitating economic integration and taken important steps in advancing and reinforcing human rights and specifically child rights. Their intimate understanding of the political environment of their contexts and the strong ownership and sense of belonging in their respective regions and countries has made them very well suited to influence policy and practice at national level within their partner states. This is why the prioritization of human rights within the regional economic communities' legal frameworks and practices can make a difference. And today we are here to discuss the difference that this has made in the East Africa community, in the 6 partner states. So, ladies.
Let's see a video. Please enable the video from your side. We can hear you well, but we can't see you.
Yes, Maurice, okay, sorry. It says that my video has been stopped by my host, so I don't have control over it, unfortunately.
Because here, it's enabled. But I think
ACPF, my team at ACPF, can you look into this, please, as I proceed?
Okay.
So I will continue as we try to sort out that little technological hiccup, but I'm glad you can hear me.
Yeah, now you are a host, so you can.
Yes. Great. Hamujambo tena. Allow me to greet you again. Good morning, Sava. Yes, all right. We'll continue with where we are. It's lovely to be on the screen and to see you. It's a very different feeling when you speak with people, when you can see them and you know they can see you. All right, so I will continue from where I was. Thank you, Maurice. And so, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I have to commend the East Africa community. It is ahead of the pack of the regional economic communities in Africa in terms of promoting and advancing the rights of children. Over the past few years, the EAC has taken a number of concrete steps to put in place normative frameworks. It has set up the infrastructure needed to provide the technical guidance to partner states. It has gone on to even monitor its own progress and remarkably made resources available to implement the child policy. And I commend you for this. Over the past few years, we have also seen, we as the African Child Policy Forum have supported the EAC Secretariat and its partner states in their concerted efforts to strengthen legal and policy frameworks to advance the rights of children. We have facilitated learning and the provision of better services for children. As part of the Interagency Working Group on Child Rights and Wellbeing, ACPF was quietly behind the scenes in the development of the regional child policy in 2016. And after this child policy was adopted, we have continued to work with the EAC in the development of key implementation tools to make sure that this child policy remains alive. Specifically, the framework for strengthening child protection systems in East African community. This framework provides practical guidance on holistically addressing child protection and giving better focus on prevention and strengthening the critical roles of key sectors and stakeholders. Parallel to this effort, ACPF also undertook an assessment of the child laws in the partner states, in the 6 partner states, to explore how these laws could be harmonized with the EAC child policy and of course with the regional and international child rights instruments. Furthermore, we at the African Child Policy Forum, as the Secretariat of the African Partnership to End Violence Against Children, commonly referred to as ACPF, have promoted the efforts to end violence against children by promoting the uptake and utilization of the INSPIRE set of strategies in the member states. And we are pleased that 2 of the 6 partner states, namely Uganda and Tanzania, have taken this up. I'm optimistic that the remaining partner states will follow suit and accelerate their efforts in ending violence against children, which we all acknowledge has become the shadow pandemic to COVID. Distinguished participants, the EAC child policy, as you all know, has its 10 priority areas with specific strategies on actualizing the aspirations laid out therein. It obligates partner states to harmonize cross-country collaboration and coordination on issues of child rights that are transnational in nature, that go across our borders. Embedded within the policy is also the requirement to review progress of the implementation of this policy periodically. And I am therefore happy that ACPF has supported this review. And the report that will be launched later today, this morning, is a culmination of months of discussions and consultations with the Secretariat, partner states, INGOs, and CSOs working in the region on implementing these policies. Allow me to highlight a few of the key findings, just a few, 4 of them. The report finds that across all 10 priority areas, there is progress in the implementation of the policy in all partner states. However, the progress is not consistent across the 6 countries. It varies, and in some countries is too slow. The policy has not been fully integrated into the national child rights response, planning, and implementation across all partner states. Thirdly, accountability around the implementation of the child policy across the partner states is concerningly still weak. For instance, there are partner states that are yet to report to the EAC on the implementation of the child policy. And fourth is the need to streamline communications between the EAC Secretariat and ministries responsible for children in the partner states on implementation of the child policy. These are only 4 of the key points that are highlighted in the report that we are launching this morning. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I urge all of us to use the report not as an audit of our performance in respect to the realization of our shared ambitions, but rather as an opportunity to learn from each other's experiences, to see how we can improve and become more efficient and effective in translating this very rich policy into practice. That is where our gap lies, and that is where we need to put concerted effort in translating policy into practice, because that is how we will deliver concrete results on improving child rights and well-being in the 6 partner states. We have also learned from the review that the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the implementation of this child policy and even threatened to undermine the progress made in recent years. It has affected the capacity of partner states, as was said by the first speaker, in responding to child rights and protection issues. Children everywhere have been impacted at an even higher degree by violence and abuse. And while the full extent of the impact of COVID pandemic is yet to be known, the pandemic has heightened awareness and inspired collaborations, and even gone on to demonstrate the value of collective action for our shared problems. It is to say that in spite of the enormous challenge of the pandemic, it has brought us together, and it has helped us even see the challenges that exist. And now, we therefore have a window of opportunity to translate not just the rhetoric of what the world is calling building back better into the reality for children. Distinguished participants, allow me to conclude my brief remarks by saying that I see this conference as a good opportunity to recommit ourselves to accelerating the implementation of the EAC child policy. It is also an opportunity for us to accelerate, to ensure that the acceleration of this child policy contributes to the gains and aspirations of our African aspirations for our children, Africa Agenda 2040. I believe that we will use this opportunity to learn from each other's experiences and use the lessons to improve the lives of our children. I am hopeful that when we reconvene 5 years from now for the next review, all our countries will have made significant progress in the implementation of the EAC child policy. I want to finish by congratulating you for your collective commitment to creating a continent that puts children at the front, at the back, and at the center in everything that we do, in words and in deeds. And I believe you agree with me that our children deserve no less. And so with that, I will wish you all a fruitful deliberation this morning. Asanteni sana. Maurice, back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Joan, for the inspirational remarks. Before we proceed, we did a trip to make so that we can see your video. So we request that you also make us host again. We had made you host, so please make us host. Just go to the participants, and when you see Africa Child Policy Forum, make them host, because you're now the host.
Okay, let me see how to do that. We're learning a lot of things with these platforms. I see participants, but I'm not sure.
We should be number 1 on the list, African Child Policy Forum. Then you right click and make host.
Okay, let me do that.
Yes, and as you do that, I think I will proceed and invite Mr. Stephen Nyonzima, who will make the remarks on behalf of Honorable Christophe Goswano. Mr. Stephen Nyonzima is the Acting Director, Social Sectors at the EAC Secretariat, and is in charge of this sector for children. So he is joining online. Mr. Nyonzima, you're welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Thank you very much. I have already been introduced. Niyonzima Stephen, and I am delivering a statement on behalf of the Deputy Secretary General, Honorable Christopher Bazivamo, who is responsible for productive and social sectors. You will allow me to read it verbatim, and I therefore hereby proceed. The Executive Director, African Child Policy Forum, my colleagues from the EAC Secretariat present, representatives from international organizations present, government officials, and other experts from partner states, civil society organizations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. First of all, it is my pleasure to take this great opportunity to welcome you all to this important launch, which has actually drawn participants from various parts of Africa and the world over. Some of whom are appearing physically, while others are appearing virtually like me. We indeed recognize that over 100 participants have registered to be part of this important forum. It is therefore in this context that in the East African community, we have a principle called EAC is people-centered. It is a people-centered to the extent that we put everybody on board. We have children, we have students, we have the elderly, we have public officials, civil society, private sector, and very many others. And therefore, children are important aspects of our integration process. That's why we are celebrating the achievements that have been registered in the previous 5 years when the Council of Ministers adopted the EAC Child Policy. Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, this forum comes at a time when our region is facing challenges arising out of issues that affect our children and youth. As you are aware, the total population of our continent is about 1.2 billion, while the population of our region, our EAC, is now 177 million and is expected to increase because I think you have one of the best fertility rates. In the partner states, because now we are 6, children and young people aged 25 years are expected to be around 60% of the total population. It is therefore my considered view that there is a great potential for a demographic dividend, especially if the potential of the youth is harnessed in Africa. We can indeed realize economic development because they have the energy, they have the ability, initiativeness, as well as the creativity. So it's a very important demographic dividend in our continent. Therefore, from the data quoted above, if we want to make our region successful, we need to take a deliberate action to support our children to overcome a number of challenges they face on a daily basis. Some of these challenges include early pregnancies, HIV/AIDS, poverty, inheritance-related problems, even have problems of witchcraft, rituals, and many others. We need to do this so that we can have our children be better citizens of the future. Dear participants, in terms of legal framework that has cemented the area of cooperation under children, has already been re-echoed by the Executive Director while making her statement. And indeed, under Article 120 of the treaty, partner states undertook to closely cooperate on matters that affect children, youth, women, older persons, and persons with disabilities. and other marginalized and disadvantaged groups. Therefore, as EAC, we recognize the need to take appropriate measures to promote and protect the rights of children, and as well as catering for the welfare. Children are citizens in their own right. They are entitled to the full spectrum of human rights. As such, the community instituted various measures to respond appropriately to promote and protect the rights and the welfare of our children. That's why in the EAC, we have a policy-making organ called the Council of Ministers, and the Council of Ministers also established a specialized technical sectoral council that looks into the welfare of children, gender, social protection, as well as community development. That's why the child policy was indeed approved by the sectoral council and then finally endorsed by the full council. Dear participants, we are here today to receive a report that has been prepared by the Secretariat working together with partner states. They also, as Secretariat, we worked with civil society organizations and international organizations. This report is very critical because it discusses progress attained by the 10 priority areas of the policy, the children policy, which include provision of care services to the most vulnerable, strengthening national children protection systems in our region. I have had a chance to read through the report, and it is my honor to note that actually the region has made good progress in at least the 10 areas of priority. We may also wish to note, ladies and gentlemen, that all partner states have ratified the Convention on Rights and Welfare. This one is demonstrating a commitment by partner states in regard to the sensitivity they have on the children. Except for one partner state, the rest have ratified the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. And also, all partner states have made tremendous progress
Recording in
partner
progress.
states have put measures to combat issues to do with the abandonment of children, child neglect, poor parenting skills, extreme household poverty, exploitation and abuse, all of which can force the children to live outside their biological ties or families. So those are some of the children frameworks. And in this regard, partner states have established, for instance, relevant ministries, agencies, and also we have civil society organizations that also deal with children. So in terms of institutional protection, policy and legal framework, partner states have done a tremendous job. We have also observed that our region has registered a progress in establishing systems that protect children and also standards that deal with service delivery. For example, partner states like South Sudan have established peace clubs in schools and designated schools as zones of peace. And these promote a culture of peace. The Republic of Burundi uses skills training to equip children with skills and out of school youth as a way from conflict with the law. So they ensure that children are protected and they don't conflict with the law, which can result into situations that cannot make a child grow properly. Another example is Kenya that uses traditional dispute mechanism to manage insecurity and conflict associated with the youth. So despite this progress, there are quite many examples we can give, which I've just picked a few of them, but indeed partner states have several systems in this regard. Despite this progress, challenges still remain in the investment of child rights and ensuring budget allocations to child rights sectors so that we can be able to meet international standards. It should be noted that the study needs to do more in enacting policy and regulatory frameworks on social work and building capacity of the social service workforce. Further, the study found out that actually the EAC child policy has not been widely disseminated and has not been integrated into national child rights response, planning and implementation mechanism across all partner states. Ladies and gentlemen, you will also realize that as integration proceeds, we have a challenge of integrating regional instruments like this particular one, the child policy, in the national frameworks. And this one has also impacted heavily in terms of, in regard to funding and inclusion of child matters in the national plans, which also affect funding and further strengthening. So this is an area that we needed to take into consideration, an area that could really take interest. To what extent can the partner states put some of these policies into their national planning to ensure that implementation is done faster and firmly? By and large, the region is on the right path towards achieving the targets set out in the policy and the various regional and international instruments. I therefore commend the partner states for the focused implementation and the various initiatives to respond to some persistent and emerging child rights issues, some of which we have already highlighted, like discrimination, early marriages, and also child labor. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to convey my sincere thanks to all partners, especially Save the Children and the African Child Policy Forum, who have worked tirelessly with the Secretariat and the other international organizations like regional economic communities, such as the African Union, the African Committee of Experts on Welfare of the Child, civil society organizations, the East Africa and African continent, all regional and international agencies. We sincerely appreciate your support and partnership. I also urge partner states and all stakeholders to use today's forum as a platform to forge and strengthen the partnerships for the successful implementation of the policy for the next phase. This being the first forum, therefore, on child rights in the EAC, since the COVID pandemic struck the region, I am positive that it will help to build the momentum for learning and sharing, building new knowledge, promoting evidence-based interventions, harnessing the spirit of partnership. We are proud that as a region, to begin with this process, we shall look forward to realizing even greater achievements in the protection of children and ensuring a better life for all children and youth, regardless of their age, gender, and social status. It is our duty to ensure a bright future of today's children as they are pillars of the East African community, the continent, and the world at large. I wish to thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen Nyozima, for the wonderful remarks. And delegates, participants, that completes our first session, the opening session. And I think we are doing very well with time. We shall now go over to the second session, which is mainly presentations. So we have 3 presentations, one from the African Child Policy Forum, and the other one which will be just a snapshot of what the review found out. So the study results will be presented to them, and then we shall have just a few reflections from partner states. So I'll call upon Saba Lishan from the African Child Policy Forum to give us a presentation, and we shall project it so you'll be able to follow.
Thank you, Maurice. Thank you very much. If you could share the PowerPoint presentation. Yes, thank you very much, Maurice. Honorable Deputy Secretary General, Executive Director of the African Child Policy Forum, Dr. Joanne, distinguished representative of partner states, child rights actors in the region, all the civil society organizations, our development partners, UN agencies. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining us this morning. My presentation will be very brief. And as African Child Policy Forum, we are very delighted to present to you Africa's 30-year journey with Africa's Children's Charter. This is an assessment that examines progress, challenges relating to child rights in Africa. It uses the key elements for implementing child rights and well-being identified in the African Committee of Experts General Comment number 5. General Comment number 5, which speaks to Article 1 on state parties' obligation under the African Charter and system strengthening for child protection. The report, as from the title you see, it has a Pan-African scope, but it looks into 9 countries in depth to get further insight on the progresses and the persisting challenges. These countries are Burundi, Cameroon, Egypt, Kenya, Senegal, Mozambique, South Africa, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. As you can imagine, these countries not only represent the 5 African regional blocs, but also they represent the full range of ACPF child friendliness ranking according to our 2018 Child Friendliness Index, which ranks African governments' performance vis-a-vis their obligation towards delivering on child rights. So the Friendliness Index, it has a range of categories from most child-friendly African governments to the least child-friendly African governments. So these 5 countries represent that range of categories. So the report not only looks into the progress and challenges, but it also looks into, it draws from these experiences and efforts, it draws some of important lessons and it has identified important priority area for action going forward. So basically that is the overall focus of this report. So allow me to start with our successes. So these successes gives us really reason for celebration. So to begin with, the foundational successes. So Africa as a continent, as a region, has really progressed in terms of developing a robust regional normative and institutional framework. In that, of course, the Children's Charter comes on the top. As you know, our continent is the only continent that has a specific child rights instrument. And this charter, with its unique characteristics, offer best protection for children. For example, unlike the CRC, the Children's Charter does not differentiate between civil and political rights, economic, social, and cultural rights in terms of resource allocation by state parties. That is an important addition in the Children's Charter. It also defines the child with a qualification as any human being below the age of 18, and it protects the child from harmful practices by pronouncing the supremacy of the committee over any customs, tradition, or religious practices that is inconsistent with the provisions. These are important additions that really distinguish the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child from the Convention on the Rights of the Child. So this is a very important development since the adoption of the Charter in 1990. The other important progress that our continent has seen is we are almost near universal ratification of this charter. We, among the 55 state parties in our continent, countries, there are now currently 50 countries have ratified this charter. Only 5 countries are remaining. These are Morocco, Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Somalia, South Sudan, and Tunisia. So only 5 countries are remaining. So hopefully in the coming few years, we would like to see these countries also ratify the charter. Another important milestone when it comes to the regional normative and institutional framework is how the committee has really transformed in terms of driving the children's rights in our continent. The African Committee of Experts on the Right and Welfare of the Child has been I've been told, Maurice, can you please take me to the next slide, please? Yes, thank you. No, before that. No, we are okay. Yes, thank you. So I was talking about the role and the efforts of the African Committee of Experts on the Right and Welfare of the Child. Because of the committee's really promotional work, currently now about 39 countries have reported to the committee in terms of how they are delivering on their commitment. The committee has also, in exercising its interpretive role or giving direction in terms of the interpretation of the provisions, the committee has come up with 5 general comments. As you know, the general comments, they set standards in terms of clarifying the normative content of the provisions within the charter. So these general comments have been really instrumental, excuse me, in really giving us a further clarification on some of the important articles. The other important milestone for the region is the new, we cannot call it the new, but we have a 25-year policy framework. That is the Africa Children's Agenda 2040. And this agenda has 10 priorities, 10 aspirations. That's actually mobilizing countries to really recommit their efforts towards of achieving children's rights. Lastly, in terms of the regional normative and institutional framework, an important milestone to look into is the development of independent child right monitoring mechanisms. Since 2000, the national human rights institutions have really grown in respective state parties. So currently we have about 47 national human rights institutions. So these are really the major milestones at the regional level. When we look into the national legislative and policy framework, once again, we are really we see a lot of progress in terms of countries really revising, reforming, strengthening their legislative and policy framework. So the first one is countries' progress in terms of really putting the issue of children's rights in their national constitutions. Given the supremacy of the national constitutions, the recognition of children's rights in a country's constitutional framework, this is critical to see that many countries now reflect really explicitly provide for children's rights in their constitution. The other is that about 49 countries now have a consolidated children's statutes or children's act. This is very important because it really gives a direction for all actors at the national level to refer to this consolidated, really harmonize one strong national law that looks into the various facets of children's rights. So it's important that we have progress in this area. We have now 49 countries. Almost all countries have a national plan of action currently, which is an important policy framework. The other is the child rights coordinating bodies exist almost in all African countries. This is a very really positive developments that are really driving actions and efforts at the national level. So dear distinguished participants, the findings also shows that this is not the time for complacency. Although we have seen a lot of progress, as Dr. Joanne mentioned in her remark earlier, there are also persisting challenges. These might not be new to all of you, but some of the major persisting challenges that the report has found that there are countries, about 4 countries so far, they have a major reservation on the charter. So they have explicitly said, for example, Botswana, in regards to the definition of child, they said they are not bound by that. So these are major provisions, but some countries still have a serious reservation on some of the articles, on some of the provisions. The other is this is an issue that comes when we discuss about the issue of children's rights, the implementation and enforcement of laws and policies. This is because primarily countries have a problem in terms of staffing, in terms of budgeting for children issues, children programs. The service packages are inadequate. So these are the major really driving factors that are really contributing to the poor implementation and enforcement of laws and policies in many countries in the region. The other is the continent is still lagging behind in terms of provision or investing resources when it comes to early childhood development. We also have a problem in terms of school completion, particularly for girls. Countries are also really not prepared for some of the emerging issues. This pandemic, the COVID, has really shown us, really clearly brought to light that countries' systemic preparedness in terms of responding to these emerging crises and issues. That's one area. But when the other is issues related to online child sexual exploitation, crimes and extreme forms of violence. Some groups of children are still neglected. Children with disability, children who are without parental care. So these are the major still persisting issues that we really need to look into. Dear participants, so to look into the important suggestions that have been put by this report, the report has suggested about 10 priority areas for actions. We will share at the end of this presentation the links of the report. These are really important findings and suggestions for countries to pick it up and try to align it with their national framework. Some of these suggestions, they seek to ensure how universal ratification of the Charter can be promoted, how we as a continent, we can put pressure on our governments and civil society actors to support that pressure for some of the countries to withdraw their reservation. An important suggestion is how countries need to look into the link between the formal child rights system and the customary mechanisms. An important serious gap still remains in that area. An area that needs to be further looked into is the strengthening of implementation and enforcement of laws and policies. Although we have reasonably really positive framework in terms of laws and policies, but implementation and enforcement, as you know, remains a serious critical gap. And the other is we need to the continuing promoting and pushing the issue of vulnerable groups, vulnerable group of children. So continue setting the agenda on children in vulnerable circumstances, children who are in humanitarian situations, things like that, supporting the national legislation on neglected and emerging child rights concerns. So these are some of the areas, priority areas that the report has identified. And we really invite you to please have a time to look at it. Try to compare countries, but also it gives a regional picture. So I would like to conclude my brief highlight of the report at this point. And I want to acknowledge our sincere appreciation to Save the Children International and the Swedish International Development Agency, who have really been generous in financing this initiative, but also technically supporting us. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Saba. Thank you, Saba, for the presentation. I think we've learned a lot about the relevance of the African Charter. The EAC child policy is actually implements the charter, so they are related. It implements the African Charter on the rights and welfare of the child, and also the Convention on the rights of the child, the UN Convention. And in fact, talking about Agenda 2040, when you look at the aspirations in the Agenda 2040, they are comparable to all the 10 priority areas of the child policy. So the success of the child policy is also the success of the charter and vice versa. So that's why we work closely with a committee of experts on the rights and welfare of the child, the African Union, so that we achieve together and promote child rights not only in East Africa, but in the Eastern African region and beyond. So I think we can now get a presentation on the findings from the East African Report on Child Rights. And I think that's what brought us here. We want to hear what has happened over the last 5 years since the policy was adopted in 2016. We've been implementing at different levels, national and regional, and we've done a lot. And we want to know what impact the implementation of the child policy has given, especially at partner states level. And then probably we can learn from it. And as we develop the second program and programming the second phase of implementing the child policy, we still have the same child policy, which we are to implement over the next 5 years. Then we can know where we can strengthen and also some of the good practices we can learn from. So this presentation is to be given by us, the EAC Secretariat, and we did this report with support from a few people, the Secretariat, but also in the partner states. And we've chosen one of the people to help us discuss the findings, and you can also chip in when we reach the session on reflections. So I welcome Yvonne Tabire to give us a presentation on the findings of the report. Welcome, Yvonne.
Thank you so much, Maurice. Perhaps you could also support me with projecting the slides.
Yes, so we shall project the slides, but Yvonne's presentation will be priority area per priority area. So we'll just give you a snapshot of some of the study findings on each priority area. It will be in form of tables, and you can read through as she speaks. You can also get just a snapshot of how partner states are doing. And to explain the tables, you will see the scores, and in brackets, the scores from the baseline survey. Before we started implementing the child policy, we did a baseline survey on how partner states were doing on each of the 10 priority areas. And so this study is a follow-up on the baseline survey. So you will see two sets of results, and so that you can determine how countries have made progress in the last 5 years, but more information in the document, which we will share with you after we launch it. So welcome again, Yvonne, and I will go through with you as we project for the rest of the audience to see.
Thanks a lot, Maurice, and thank you. Representatives from the EAC Secretariat, distinguished government representatives from EAC partner states, the Executive Director from the African Child Policy Forum, Dr. Joanne Nyanyuki, civil society representatives, all protocols observed. As mentioned by Maurice, my name is Yvonne Tagbire, and we were part of the team that supported the EAC Secretariat to conduct this worthwhile research in terms of assessing the extent to which the EAC partner states have implemented the EAC child policy. I would like to thank Saba for the prior presentation, because it really sets the tone in terms of where EAC partner states are also doing in terms of the general implementation of other international and regional instruments. So as mentioned by Maurice, I'll take you through the status of implementation of the EAC child policy across the 10 policy priority areas, but then finalize the presentation by also sharing some findings around the impact of COVID-19 on the implementation of the EAC policy and what that means moving forward for the EAC partner states. So the midterm review looked into policy priority 1, which is the ratification and domestication, as well as the implementation of child rights instruments. And what we saw is that at review, countries such as Kenya and Rwanda had done significantly well in terms of meeting all the 9 harmonization criteria, while Uganda and Tanzania had also met 8 of the harmonization criteria, and Burundi and South Sudan meeting 5 criteria for harmonization. So overall, we are seeing, as mentioned in previous presentations this morning, very good progress in terms of ratification and domestication of international and human rights instruments. But however, the implementation continues to be a challenge. We found that at midterm review, all the partner states had established technical persons that are tasked with providing advice to the Parliament on various child rights issues. And we also found that all partner states had also put in place law reform commissions And as mentioned by Saba, all partner states have also made significant progress in terms of putting in place a national plan of action for children that is currently being implemented. Nevertheless, there is no progress on the development of comprehensive child laws, which is one of the very critical criteria and also what is termed the general measures of implementation. We found that there are states within the EAC that are still to develop a comprehensive child law, and also the issue around resource allocation for law reform in particular continues to be a constraint. We then moved on to policy priority 2, which then zeroed in on an analysis of the harmonization of national laws and policies with international and regional instruments. And we saw that Rwanda and Kenya had recorded the highest score at 75% in ratifying the necessary international instruments, with also Burundi and Tanzania having ratified 69. Since baseline, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, and South Sudan have undertaken some legislative and policy reviews. They've also undertaken some amendment processes with some laws that were inconsistent with either the national laws or with the international instruments. And there have been also some attempts by Burundi and Kenya and Tanzania to address inconsistent laws with customary laws. And Burundi, however, still has no overarching definition of a child, and the minimum age of marriage still remains discriminatory for girls, despite the age being above accepted standards. So we also found that Tanzania also has a law that says that the minimum age of marriage is 16, and this is also inconsistent for boys and girls. So we still find that in plural legal systems, there are still some challenges in implementing and harmonizing laws, particularly on customary laws. So in order to accelerate the full harmonization of laws in the EAC, all partner states should ratify outstanding international and regional child rights instruments. And in particular, South Sudan would really need support in terms of ratifying the outstanding international instruments that South Sudan is yet to ratify. Over and above that, for plural legal systems in Burundi, Kenya, South Sudan, and Tanzania, there is also an urgent need to repeal or amend discriminatory laws that are under religious and customary laws, and to put these in line with the international and regional instruments. We then moved on to policy priority 3, and the policy priority area 3 looks into the children's rights to citizenship and identity. And it was really exciting to note that partner states have really made progress in decentralizing birth registration systems. And there have been additional investments that have been made by partner states in terms of civic education awareness programs, and also on the digitization of birth registration systems. We found that Burundi, Rwanda, and Uganda have made some significant progress in the removal of user fees for birth registration, and capacity building has also been invested in these countries for the capacity building of civic registration officials. And Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya have implemented national programs on digitalization of birth registration. So it was really good to see that e-birth registration has become quite a commonplace in the EAC partner states. And in countries also like Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, as well as Tanzania, there are some progress that are being made to link birth registration to other services, including education, health, and social protection. So we saw that as children are trying to access healthcare, that's also an opportunity to get a birth registration if the registration of a child has been late, or when a child is trying to access education. That is also an entry point for accelerating birth registration. In terms of nationality and citizenship, at baseline, Rwanda recorded the highest score, where findings at review showed that it has sustained its efforts to confer citizenship and nationality to adopted, abandoned children, and also provide some formal recognition to refugee and internally displaced children. While Kenya, Uganda, and South Sudan have, however, recorded minimal progress in terms of consideration of children from minority groups and IDPs and refugee children. However, it was noted that Kenya is making concerted efforts to really follow the recommendations coming from the decision on the children with Nubian case, case that was before the African Committee of Experts, and is making efforts to change its birth registration systems for minority groups. Tanzania and Burundi have also to make progress in pre-existing discriminatory citizenship laws that are still prevailing in the country. So to improve birth registration and conferment of nationality and citizenship, all partner states are to accelerate birth registration and coverage in line with the Sustainable Development Indicator 16.9.1, to ensure that by 2063, 75% of the population is registered and has access to important registration documents. Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda should also continue efforts to promote the timely registration of births through these digitalized platforms that they've put in place, while Burundi, Tanzania, and South Sudan should also establish the necessary infrastructure for putting in place e-registration. We found that e-registration really is a precursor for accelerating birth registration in the region. We then moved on to policy priority 4, which is to strengthen cross-border mechanisms on child rights. And we know that there is an entry point around strengthening cross-border mechanisms, particularly for children on the move, which is an initiative that Save the Children International and the EAC Secretariat is pushing together with UN agencies. But at review, there's very limited progress on this policy priority area. And there is an urgent need to develop collaborative frameworks and administrative mechanisms between partner states to partner states. So a lot of cross-border violations, such as movement for harmful practices, including female genital mutilation, as well as cross-border movements for young people and children, continues to happen unabated within the region. But there are no current consistent cross-border mechanisms in place to address these violations. So it is very important that cross-border mechanisms continue to be put in place across the EAC partner states. And the EAC may also use this opportunity to facilitate cross-border meetings on a regular basis across partner states. We then looked into policy priority 5, which is focused on strengthening national child protection systems, where we looked into the extent to which partner states are putting in family-based child protection mechanisms, but also embedding the issues around the minimum standards of care. And overall, 5 partner states have really made progress in strengthening child protection systems, and this is Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda, where it was very clear that child protection is really put in place as a priority by the government, and really support to child-headed households has been institutionalized in policy frameworks, but also in the resourcing of child protection systems. And Burundi is also registering the most progress from baseline to review. But just as it was at baseline, when the EAC policy was just starting to be implemented, the 5 partner states are continuing to promote the role of parents, as mentioned by Honorable Stephen Nyosi, that the EAC partner states continue to promote the role of the family, as a nuclear place for support for children, and also support to primary caregivers in the protection of children from violence, abuse, neglect, and exploitation. However, South Sudan is also yet to report progress in strengthening child protection systems, as it was found that there was limited progress around putting in place the necessary safeguards in terms of strengthening community mechanisms, as well as putting in place integrated prevention and response mechanisms to address violence against children in the country. There is an issue around the institutionalization of children, and we need to commend Kenya and Uganda for really putting it as a policy priority in the country around the institutionalization of children in places of care, where there is a general trend in the region to support community-based kinship care. So this is something that the region should be proud of as something that has been prioritized in some countries. So in order to significantly strengthen child protection systems, all partner states should invest in the systems, particularly in informal aspects, by facilitating the establishment and orientation of key mechanisms in areas where they are not yet present, as well as motivating community-based child protection systems and linking these with formal child protection systems. So the informal and formal child protection system strengthening needs continued support. And as Dr. Joanne Nyanyuki mentioned initially, only 2 EAC partner states are part of the APVAC. And we hope that in the next 5 years of implementation, we see the remaining 4 countries also coming on board to be part of the African platform to end violence against children. On policy priority 6, on approach to providing quality education, health, and social protection to children, the review showed that half of the partner states, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania, have sector-specific frameworks, and they're making progress to ensure that primary education, pre-primary education continues to be made a priority. However, early childhood development, as mentioned by Saba, is also one of the key areas where we found very little investments around ECD, and this might also be a key action point for the EAC partner states. On social protection, every partner state had a social protection program. However, what we noted was that there was very little government investment within the social protection schemes, with a lot of the social protection schemes being supported by official development assistance or through donor agencies such as the UN agencies and other international organizations that were really supporting government efforts to accelerate social protection systems. We also found out that the social sectors were also really in place in terms of the development of an integrated policy. Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda did have an integrated policy and program framework that actually coherently addresses social sectors. And we saw that the social sectors also speak together in terms of health, education, and social protection, and also quite recently child protection being embedded. So there are some coordination mechanisms that are working. So while the integrated approach in Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda is to be really commended and congratulated, partner states should also do more to integrate data surveillance and capacity for integrating the child rights agenda within the overall information management systems within countries, but also for additional investments around social protection programs, which proved to be lacking across the region. In terms of policy priority 7, strengthening child protection in conflict and emergencies, we found that this is the region that is really suffering from armed conflict and large-scale terrorist attacks. And there is evidence of child recruitment and into radicalization, And however, with the threat that is seen in the region, the counterterrorism efforts in the EAC are incommensurate with the scale of the threat. And there is current legislation on prohibition of child recruitment into conflict, but this does not sufficiently address the protection of children from violent extremism and terrorism. So this is something that the EAC partner states might also need to consider as they implement counterterrorism laws. However, it was encouraging to note that all partner states have a disaster coordination mechanism on policy and technical matters relating to emergencies and disaster risk reduction. And to strengthen child protection in conflict and emergency situations, all partner states should undertake a comprehensive review of existing legislative frameworks to assess how sufficient they are in terms of protecting children from violent extremism, particularly child recruitment. Policy Priority 8, which was on the resourcing of child welfare services and institutions, really echoes Saba's presentation, where we were looking at the extent to which national budgets and plans prioritize children's rights, and whether these are reflected in budgets and programs and projects. And we found that Kenya was doing quite well in terms of resource allocation and efficiency of spending, while Burundi, Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, and South Sudan were also making some efforts in resourcing child welfare institutions, however, with varied degrees of success. So there is limited fiscal space, but during the financial years since baseline, Burundi, Tanzania, and Uganda had really progressively increased their budget allocation and also improved their efficiency in spending in key sectors of children when we are looking at it in nominal terms. While Rwanda's budget allocation showed a declining trend, albeit marginally, so the decline was marginal. So the analysis on extent to which partner states are prioritizing child rights sectors shows that the child rights has been given less priority in national budgets during the period under review. We also found out that only Burundi met the Incheon Declaration of 20% budget allocation to the education sector, and Kenya and Uganda are meeting the Abuja Declaration on 15% budget allocation to the health sector. So when we look into also the international and regional budget guidance, there's also quite a lot to achieve in terms of meeting the Abuja, Dakar, and Incheon commitments. So the resourcing of departments responsible for children remains a key priority, and partner states are encouraged to generate evidence on the positive linkage between investing in children and the overall national economic development of a country. And these budgets tracking initiatives and research should also be used to inform parliamentarians and ministries of finance on the additional benefits of investment in children. I'm about to end, colleagues, and the policy priority 9 on strengthening mechanisms for monitoring, evaluation, and reporting on child rights showed that there is no progress in the region around the development or establishment of regional management information systems. And with regard to the EAC regional framework for monitoring, evaluating, reporting on children's rights, the EAC partner states were unaware, as mentioned previously in Dr. Joanne's opening remarks. So it's very key that the EAC partner states really look into ways of improving the accountability and the reporting on the status of implementation of the EAC policy, and that the indicators in the EAC regional framework should be made more specific and measurable to ensure a shared understanding on how to measure and report against these indicators by partner states. We also saw that there is some form of progress around child rights reporting, And at review, we saw that following ratification of the UNCRC, it was commendable to note that all EAC partner states have submitted at least one initial report to the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, although this has been done with some significant delays. Rwanda has submitted the most state-party reports to the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, a total of 4, and these have been submitted timely, followed by Kenya that has presented 3 reports to the African Committee, and while Tanzania has submitted 2. Uganda and Burundi have all submitted 1 report respectively to the African Committee of Experts. It's also impressive to note that South Sudan met its international treaty body obligations by reporting to the UN Committee on its initial state-party report after its ratification. And they are yet to ratify the charter, and therefore South Sudan has not reported to the African Committee. So in terms of state-party reporting on accountability, there is some progress, but we need to also consider the delays that come up when we are reporting to treaty body mechanisms. Progress calls at review also showed limited progress in linking frameworks between the committee, African Committee of Experts, and the EAC child rights monitoring mechanisms. And as mentioned by Maurice, when we are implementing the EAC child policy, we are more or less implementing other international and regional instruments. But what we found was that there is really a lot of progress that needs to be done in terms of reporting to the EAC across the indicators that are in the regional framework. On policy priority 10, which is child participation in terms of promoting child participation within the EAC partner states, we were proud to note that the EAC partner states have made some concerted efforts in terms of putting in place child participation legislative frameworks and platforms such as child parliaments, child rights clubs, that are actually mandated by the government to meet on a regular basis are also put in place. It was also impressive to note that the Day of the African Child is consistently celebrated across the EAC partner states, and that the governments also put in place very clear support to establish, for children to establish their own organizations. And all partner states have achieved this. However, there are challenges around the resourcing of these child participation platforms, which remain poorly resourced to operate efficiently. And usually resourcing is left to non-governmental organizations where participation of children is ad hoc. So partner states should undertake better resourcing to address the fragmented nature in which child participation platforms function within the state, but also to undertake better monitoring and evaluation on the efficacy of child participation platforms to ensure that children are meaningfully and actively engaged, not only in decision making within school or district level, but also to ensure that their decisions are heard within the national policy decision-making processes. So colleagues, in conclusion, we also looked at the impact of COVID-19 crisis in partner states. And as mentioned in previous presentations, we saw that years of underinvestment across the region has shown that a weak investment in education health has a ripple effect when global pandemics such as global COVID-19 happen. And because of the COVID-19 lockdown, school closures left children with no safe spaces. There was no source of decent meals where children depend on school meals, and also limited access to sexual reproductive health services. So unfortunately, the EAC partner states have also recorded a surge of high school dropouts. There have also been some anecdotal evidence on increased gender-based violence and also increased cases of teenage pregnancies. Particularly the COVID-19 is gendered, the impact of COVID-19 is gendered, where we saw that girls had faced a lot of exacerbating impacts as a result of school closures. When we're looking into even access to education around the digital divide, we found that girls are more or less, girls in the region are more or less affected by not able to access internet. And also they had additional burden of absorbing extra work for caring for other siblings, and were more exposed to domestic violence. So it really has impacted the way we are implementing, and as we are building back better, as Dr. Joanne has said, there is a need to continue to invest in child protection systems, but also in essential services to ensure that young people do not lose out on education, and that they continue to also get the access to the needed healthcare and social protection services. So COVID-19 has really underlined the need for greater public investment in education and health systems, and partner states should scale up social safety nets to provide additional support to families facing a lengthy economic recovery post-COVID-19. So we would like to take this opportunity to really sincerely thank the partner states for collaborating with us at such a challenging time. I know the partner state representatives that I've seen that are in Tanzania would recall the journey we took. It was an uncertain time, but we are sincerely grateful for availing your time during COVID-19 to speak to us, and to really get to really measure the extent to which we've implemented the EAC policy. Would also like to congratulate the EAC partner states for the progress that has been made so far, but also join in hands with Dr. Joanne from ACPF, and also Mr. Stephen from the EAC Secretariat, for us to look into solutions to addressing the persisting challenges that meet our children. There is hope for our children, and we are confident that as we implement the EAC policy, we'll also be meeting our commitments to the implementation of the African Charter, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and ultimately the Agenda 2040 for Children. Thank you so much. Maurice, over.
Yes, thank you so much, Yvonne. This is really interesting, and though I was part of the study, I'm learning a lot, and I've read this report several times, but I really, it's very good to go through those tables and see, especially in comparison to what the baseline said and how far the partner states have come. And I think it's not like it was planned, but you can see consistency in the remarks that were made and the results that we are seeing being given by the report. So I think it's a true reflection in my own analysis, but we cannot tell unless we hear from the partner states, because for us, we are at the regional level, we only get information and correlate it, put it together, and develop such reports. We get this information from the partner states, so we would like to hear from them. I think we will follow the order as it is on the program, and in this session, we will just listen to a few reflections on the lessons learned, on the gaps, and the priorities for children as we implement the child policy, but also as we implement many other international and regional instruments for children in the region. So I think I will straight away start inviting partner states. We'll start with the Republic of Uganda. Mr. Franco Tolea is the Assistant Commissioner for Children Affairs in the Ministry of Gender and Social Development. Do I have it well? Yes, Gender, Labor and Social Development, Republic of Uganda. So welcome, Mr. Franco Tolea. We shall enable your audio
If you would like to activate video, please tell us so that we do what we did before. Welcome. Maybe as Mr. Franco Tolea gets ready, we can go on with the next partner state. The Republic of Rwanda is Mr. Jonathan Kirago from the Ministry of EAC Affairs. Are you online? Okay, maybe let's start with those who are around as we organize with those ones who will present online. So we'll start with the Republic of Burundi, Mr. Etienne Gashabon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris. Dear delegates, honorable representatives of the different organizations, it's really a great pleasure to take this opportunity to express my heartfelt gratitude on behalf of the Republic of Burundi for the great progress already made by partner states to promote child rights in our region. It is then worth recognizing that all this has been possible thanks to the support of our partners who have contributed so much to develop, adopt, and implement a number of documents related to child rights. We all know that our children in the regions are facing many challenges which obviously undermine their well-being. Some of these are common in our partner states, namely refugee children and internally displaced ones, street children, children the move, orphans, and other vulnerable children, just named by a few. This then pushed me to assume that the EAC child policy has come at the real time and has been our guiding tool to address some of the challenges which children are facing, starting to review or starting to review of Burundi legal and policy framework. We have a number of legal framework that have been reviewed, namely the mother law, namely the 2018 Constitution of the Republic of Burundi, whose provisions prescribe all forms of discrimination against children. We can also mention other legal provisions that have been reviewed in line with the EAC child policy. We have the Personal Family Code, which is the main legal text governing the protection of children in general. We have 2018 Code of Criminal Procedures. We have Burundi Penal Code of 2017, which provides the administration of juvenile justice with a number of guarantees. We have a newly revised child protection policy 2020-2024 and its action plan, which have been reviewed to integrate child protection in emergency situation in general. There is also a law amending the provision of Personal and Family Code relating to adoptive filiation. We also have 2016 law on the prevention, protection of victims and the repression of gender-based violence. We have 2014 Prevention and Suppression Act on prevention and suppression of trafficking in persons and protection of victims of trafficking. We have a national strategic plan for reproductive, maternal, newborn, child and adolescent health, 2019-2023. We also have 2018 law promoting and protecting the rights of people with disabilities in Burundi. We also have a law revising the labor code in Burundi. We also have a national social protection policy. However, to fully and effectively implement this legal and policy framework, strengthening national child protection system and community mechanism has been the priority of the Republic of Burundi. Aware that parents and the community as well have the natural right and the duty to educate and bring up their children, noting that every child has the right on the part of the family, the society, and the government to social protection measures. Measures require this condition as minor, considering that all children have the right to special measures to ensure and promote care and attention necessary for their well-being, health, physical safety, in order to be protected against ill-treatment, abuse, and exploitation. The Republic of Burundi has put in place and strengthened a community-based child protection system through child protection committees with a bottom-up coordination mechanism from village to higher administrative level involving non-government organizations, just in order to provide comprehensive services to needy children. We also have village saving and loan system targeting vulnerable children as primary beneficiaries, which has been initiated in almost over the country in order to make a linkage between community-based child protection mechanisms and service provision, and much emphasis has been put on social safety nets targeting vulnerable families. Distinguished guests, to ensure coordination of the sector, an interministerial coordination body involving UN agencies, NGOs, and civil society organizations called Technical National Coordination Committee on Child Protection is operational just to ensure holistic provision of services, including child protection in the context of emergency. I cannot put aside child participation, which has been a major asset to effectively implement different child protection tools. Therefore, Children Forum, equivalent to Children Council in other countries, has been a consultative organ for all matters related to children. However, even though a number of progresses have been made, challenges are still prevailing in different aspects of children's life. Here we can mention the National Child Protection Policy and its action plan, which are not fully financed by the government. We have a comprehensive Child Protection Act, which is being finalized and which may constitute a response to certain shortcomings observed in the implementation of some legal instruments. We're also facing insufficient budget allocated to child protection component, while the needs of children are becoming enormous. Household poverty, which deprives children of access to basic needs, nutrition, schooling, healthcare, clothing, leisure, is also a major challenge. Despite all those challenges, we should know that the opportunities and perspective are there. The government of Burundi has developed the minimum package of services to child protection. We are also planning to set up a child protection information management system, CMS Plus. We also have child protection committees, which are community entities that are established to ensure the protection of children and the promotion of their rights at provincial, communal, and village level. We have a bottom-up coordination mechanism and a reporting system on the situation of child protection by different stakeholders, including community leaders. Good collaboration and coordination of different partners by working in synergy is also a good opportunity for effective implementation of our child protection tool. I think I have been too long, and this is what you can say on progress already so far made in child protection system in Burundi. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. I think now we have Uganda back on board. Mr. Franco Tolaya, can you hear us?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, hello, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Thank you so much. Apologies for the hiccup.
Yes,
I want to recognize all of you, the participants, in your various capacities. On the side of Uganda, I want to report the following in terms of implementation of the East African Child Policy. One, the government of Uganda and the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development in particular, among other legal and policy frameworks, developed its National Child Policy 2020. You remember that we had initially a policy which was called Orphans and Other Vulnerable Children Policy in 2004. However, there were challenges in relation to this policy, especially its linkage to the East African Child Policy. So we had to review this policy and came with a new policy in 2020, and which was approved by Cabinet in June last year. The National Child Policy of Uganda, as I've said above, is linked in terms of its priorities to the East African Child Policy. Actually, the development of this policy was highly informed by the East African Child Policy. And this policy of Uganda has 5 pillars. One is on the issue of child health and survival, education and development, child care and protection, child participation. Realize that these 4 pillars are related to the international instruments which Uganda government has ratified, especially the UN Convention on the Rights of the Children, of the Child, and the African Charter on the Right and Welfare of the Child. However, because we recognize in the review meetings of the policy of 2003 that system strengthening is a very key pillar, a very key aspect in child protection. So for our policy, for our national child policy, we had to put system strengthening as a key priority area. The previous presentations actually alluded to this. This particular child policy of Uganda, its development process was through a participatory system, which involved government ministries, departments, and agencies, NGOs, civil society organizations, private sector, development partners. The children themselves were also involved, were consulted in the process of developing this policy, and the academia, among others. You realize that in the just status report about our commitment to international protocols, Uganda government, we just completed and submitted our report on the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child and the optional protocols. I think there are 3 optional protocols. We submitted that report, including even the report on the African Charter for the Rights and Welfare of the Child. Now, what are the lessons learned? This is just a background to this policy, among other instruments, which I'll talk about later. What are the lessons then? 1, stakeholder involvement in the process of developing the policy. It was quite important to bring various stakeholders in developing this policy in 2021. They brought out practical challenges, practical issues, practical experiences that need to be included in the policy, in addition to what the East African Community Policy highlights. This involvement of the stakeholders also brought us the lessons that we were able to identify other partners, including their roles and responsibilities that can be tapped into to address the issue of inadequate resources, which is needed, and as well as the expertise of different partners in addressing the issue of child well-being in Uganda. More specifically, this policy of ours, I saw it in the presentation of in the early presentations that the issues of other vulnerable children among vulnerable children were not taken care of by many partner states. But this particular policy we have now is very comprehensive in terms of issues of children with disability, and more so, objective 1 of the policy addresses itself to refugee children. Another lesson we learned was this particular policy, government, my ministry in particular, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, also developed an implementation plan for this policy, which is a 5-year implementation plan which runs from 2020, 2021, 2024, 2025. Why is this implementation plan very important? It is a very key tool for us for leveraging resources, finances, and in-kind support for the implementation of the policy. And when we have been doing dissemination of the policy, actually many of the stakeholders, especially the NGOs, have put a lot of interest that this implementation plan is very good for them for mobilizing resources. What have we also learned? 1, I think this is the 3rd one. The policy clearly articulates the roles and responsibilities of many of the stakeholders. Government, bodies, ministries, departments, and agencies. And the policy at the national level, the ministry has established an interministerial committee to oversee the implementation of the policy. Why is this interministerial policy important for us? Well, because government of Uganda in its National Development Plan 3 has adopted the program-based planning and budgeting. So we realize that the 4 key pillars of the policy puts responsibility on other ministries and departments. And one of the key priority areas of the NDP3 is human capital development, for which children are key in this human capital development. So it is through this interministerial committee that this policy will be mainstream in other ministries. Again, what have we learned? The policy, because it takes the role of the whole of government, meaning that it puts most of the government ministries and departments accountable for the achieving the results of this policy. So we'll be able to bring all the partners, ministries, departments, agencies to account and to explain what they are doing in the various ministries in improving the welfare of the child, as opposed to the previous policy, which was orphans and vulnerable children focused and was so much focused in the mandate of Minister of Gender. This time we moved it out to all the ministries. What have we learned? The fourth one, recognizing the need for system strengthening for achieving the results. When we did the review of the former OVC policy, Orphans and Vulnerable Children policy, we realized that issue of system strengthening was very key to achieve other areas of the policy. So the government and my ministry in particular put system strengthening as a priority to seek leadership support, strengthen capacity development, and build synergies, establish coordination structures at all levels of government, both sub-national levels and to lower local government levels. And the said also we learned about the role NGOs play in delivering the. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
What are the challenges? I think the challenges seem to be across uniform all around. One is we have very many laws not necessarily housed in the ministry. For instance, laws which have a bearing or which have impact on the welfare of children. Laws alone, we have about 22 of them, but the implementation, the enforcement is still a challenge. Two, we have inadequate funding, which I think the report has really alluded to, inadequate funding. We also have a challenge now that our policy has moved from a perspective of looking at orphans and vulnerable children, but to aspect of promoting, addressing child well-being, meaning that our M&E frameworks needs to be adjusted so that it captures all the aspects of child well-being as prioritized in the policy. We also have the challenge of scaling up capacity at all levels of government in terms of skills and knowledge of staff in child protection. More importantly, also aligning the policy priorities with the emergency work, for instance, especially in refugee situations. The policy has proposed many coordination structures and stakeholders, but because of the nature of the refugee work, it seems to be we need more discussion with the partners in that area. For instance, in relation to alternative care, refugee alternative care is issue of emergency, and yet the ministry has proposed guidelines, minimum standards for alternative care, including fostering. So we have been having discussions with the partners in that area and see how we align it to the policy priorities. What are our priorities then? Priority one is to strengthen systems at all levels, from central government to local government levels. You realize that unless you strengthen the systems, delivery of other aspects, the four pillars may not be possible. So our priority as a government is to strengthen the systems at all levels, including building capacity enhancing functionality of the child well-being committees. Actually, this policy has established committees up to grassroots level, as simulated. I saw it in the aspirations of the East African policies, it's number 10 there. So the policy established structures from national level up to village level. So we are looking at this, strengthen these systems and make them functional. Our priority will be also to mobilize resources from state and non-state actors to implement the policy. Harmonize the M&E framework, continue to disseminate the policy for purposes of ownership and integration and mainstreaming. We shall continue to pursue the implementation of our action plan on the institutionalization of children. Now that we have a national framework for alternative care and its action plan in place. And finally, our priority also will be to enhance child participation. We now have a national child participation strategy in place, including child participation guideline. So these are some of the priorities which I think we shall be pursuing as a government. My final statement is that report is good. I don't know when it was done. I don't know whether that will be the same situation if we did the review now, because before me, I have a number of legal and policy frameworks which are all have a bearing on the well-being of children. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Those are really wonderful remarks, and especially the commitments from the Republic of Uganda. Now I'm convicted because the presentations are very good, and especially the commitments, because being at the regional level, you want to hear partner states commit. But we need to also be observant of the time, because we have only 1 hour to do this. So I call upon the rest of the panelists to just give us reflections on this report, on what is happening, the lessons learned, and also give us. Otherwise, we really appreciate the comprehensiveness of the presentations we've already gotten. And I think I will proceed and call upon the Republic of Kenya. Madam Mary Mogaka, I think you can take the floor.
Thank you very much, Maurice, and greetings from Kenya. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Margaret Mogaka from the Department of Children Services, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, Kenya. I'm happy to join you online as we launch this report. I was lucky to take part in it, and it was under very difficult circumstances because it was at the height of the pandemic. And I'm happy that we have a report that we can look at the recommendations and work on them to bring change to our children. Just something short, as Maurice has said, because of time. I will not go through all the legal and policy frameworks that we have in Kenya because it is a lot. And I think the report has captured most of what we have as a country. Only to give just a short highlight of where we are. Currently, we are in the process of reviewing the Children Act. We are actually coming up with a new Children Act. The bill has been approved by the cabinet, and it has been transmitted to the National Assembly for consideration. We are hoping that it will be out before there is the end of the current National Assembly, before the elections next year. Among the key provisions in the bill is the emphasis we've put on the role of the family in childcare and development, and also protection. We are also giving priority to alternative family care for children without parental care instead of institutional care. And we have a national program of moving children from institutions to family-based care options and changing the way we care for our children without families. So that is something that we have captured in law now, that we are emphasizing more on family-based care. The bill also reviews the age of criminal responsibility from 8 years to 12 years to be in line with the international standards, among many other provisions that are very progressive in that bill. So that is in a bid to improve the environment for our children to be more protective. We are still implementing the EAC child policy within the other policies of children that we have, including the National Children Policy and the NPA for Children 2015-2022. Since we have our national policies, there is need to ensure we implement the EAC child policy as a region, so that when we are reporting relating to that policy. My major concern is that we need to implement priority areas that touch on all of us as partner states. Key among them is priority area number 4 on cross-border child rights violations. And I've been asking myself and my colleagues, how do we do this? How would we collaborate? Do we come up with guidelines or protocols or standard operating procedures for our collaboration as partner states? If I find a rights violation of a child in Kenya who is from another partner state, how do we go about it? So we need to come up with a framework of our collaboration so that we are able to implement the EAC child policy. EAC being one community, whatever happens in one partner state has an effect on the neighboring state. So there is a need for all of us to move together through harmonization of our laws, our policies, and learning from each other, borrowing initiatives and best practices. I also want to say that from the report, we've heard that most of the social protection programs are donor-based. They're actually funded by donors. And I just want to report here that our main social protection program, that is the Inua Jamii Cash Transfer Program, is fully funded by the government of Kenya. So partners support us on other areas of improving the program, but the cash transfer, the money that goes to the families, comes from the government of Kenya. Just to conclude, I want to talk about child participation. And for us, child participation is a key pillar because it's also a key pillar in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, and in the EAC child policy. So we make sure that we involve children in when we are developing legislation and policies, and when we are implementing programs through the Kenya Children's Assembly and other child-led initiatives. Actually, late last year when we were reporting, we were presenting our second state party report on the African Charter, which we did virtually. Our children participated. Their views were heard by the committee of experts. So we never leave behind our children. And to conclude, I just want to give the commitment of the Republic of Kenya that we will continue implementing the EAC policy and all the other conventions and international and regional treaties that we have signed on children. And we are willing to work with the other partner states in the area of children. Thank you very much, Maurice. Thank you very much, all the participants. Have a good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Mary Mogaka and the Republic of Kenya for those reflections. And I've gotten 3 points, especially on child participation, cross-border issues, and then the whole issue of reporting, of harmonized reporting. And for us, even when you read through this report, you will find the EAC Secretariat also has a section in which we discuss what we are committed to do. And related to those three especially, I want to mention that we work closely with other reps because, for example, cross-border issues are not only limited to the EAC partner states, but also the other countries in which we share regional economic communities, for example, SADC and IGAD. So we have frameworks of inter-reg collaboration, again, in which we work with agencies, African Child Policy Forum and Save the Children, coordinate with other UN agencies, the common ones, which are UNICEF, UNHCR, ILO, and IOM, to implement especially matters of child protection. We have a regional child protection network, and that's where we address cross-border issues. But most importantly, we recognize the role of the African Union, especially in addressing most of these cross-border issues, because most of them go beyond just the continent. And on child participation, we're also working with the African Union. Right now, we are in the process of doing child participation guidelines, so that when we get those guidelines, when we can do strategies both at regional level and in close collaboration with our partner states. And same with reporting. We hope that we can reach the ideal where partner states report at the same time, both the different committees at African Union, but also at the continental level. And also the EAC Council of Ministers can also help in policy guidance as partner states report on their various commitments. So it was good to hear those 3 points and also related to the previous presentations. So I think we shall reduce on the time. So the next partner states, please let's just get a few highlights from you so that we can quickly reflect and finalize. So I will call upon the Republic of South Sudan to give us just a few remarks, and then the Republic of Tanzania later.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
In behalf of South Sudan, Committing myself in, these remarks are supposed to be said by the Director General from the Ministry. From the Ministry of Gender, but due to challenge of connectivity, she could not come in or online. So, first of all, let me begin by giving thanks for honoring the following. My first thanksgiving goes to the partners who are in collaboration for the success of this framework or the report on child rights. And my second appreciation goes to the community, East African Community Secretariat, who have also labored to work hard to come up with this success today. As a country, as we know in the community, we are still young, but we just joined, and we are facing several insecurity issues, and it is not something that we are going through as a country successfully, but the country also has policies on child rights that we are implementing, especially when we talk of education. There are internally displaced children who are given special rights on education. Examinations are taken right to their IDP camps, and they do sit their exams in the IDP camps. So the country is taking in place the rights of education for children. Beside all the challenges the country is going through, but all the policies on child rights in the national level, we have them at hand. Implementation would be of a challenge, but to some extent, the country is doing something and implementing. The Ministry of Gender is working hard with some implementing partners in the country to come up with these policies and put forward into implementation in the country. So, as far as the country is concerned, and as the country has taken also a step to join the East African community, we are ready as South Sudan to integrate this child right policy of the community into our national child policies. So with the support from partner states and support from non-profit organizations like Save the Children, we help them on the ground, and they are working hand in hand with the ministry concerned with child rights. With all this, I thank everyone, and I wish if the DG is online, one point, she may be connected. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Robina, for those remarks. Related to South Sudan joined, adopted the child policy, but in time of accession to the community,
we carried out a baseline study specifically for South Sudan. So we have a study which again looks at South Sudan particularly and how it's doing in all the 10 priority areas. It's a very interesting study. That you talked about. South Sudan is young in the community, but also in the international forum. Actually, if you read in the report, it's the only partner state which has not yet ratified the charter on the charter or the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. So there are efforts together with the African Union to make sure that South Sudan is fast-tracked to adopt some of these international and regional instruments, but also to implement the instruments even within the different challenges the country is facing. So thank you, Robina, and I think we'll go to the next partner state, which is the United Republic of Tanzania. Mr. Shilungu Ndaki, please welcome. Mr. Shilungu, you're muted. Please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. Okay. Yes. Good morning. Good morning, all of you. Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, all of you. I'm Shilungu Ndaki, Assistant Commissioner for Social Welfare from Tanzania. To me, just want to give some few remarks in relation to what is going on the launching of the midterm review report of the East Africa Child Policy. Dear child rights experts, representatives of EAC Secretariat, distinguished guests, supporting partners, particularly African Child Policy Forum, Chair Save the Children in Sweden. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm honored to represent the Ministry of Health, Community Development, Gender and Children, and the children to this very important event. I take this opportunity to sincerely express my gratitude to EAC Secretariat, who have worked tirelessly to ensure that analytical assessment of the progress in harmonizing and implementing the EAC child policy at the national level and to capture the outcome for children around the policy 10 years areas. It is known that child protection is a very crucial aspect in our life. This is because in order to having a better tomorrow or better future, we need to invest in our children now. Whereby failure to do so may result in having the community which are kind of evils, and we consider investing in children is investing in the future. I believe this spirit will be taken to the next level to ensure our children are not left behind. Distinguished delegates, we are happy to report and update you that the United Republic of Tanzania has made significant progress towards implementation of the nation of the children, including the government since 1996 has in place the Child Development Policy, and it was reviewed in 2008. And currently we have the Law of the Child Act, of number 21 of 2009, and which was reviewed in 2019. The existing policies and the regulations enshrines fundamental rights of children and lay foundation for child protection system that will oblige a range of bodies to prevent and respond to violence, abuse, and exploitation of children. The current Tanzania policies and rules mainly address issues of child protection in areas of child survival, development, participation, protection, and the right for not to be discriminated against. Therefore, the government of Tanzania initiatives are in line with United Nations Conventions on the Right of the Child, African Charter on the Rights and Development of the Child, even the EAC Child Policy, which are discussing it now. And the several other ongoing initiatives, such as the development of regulations and the guidelines aiming at promotion and the protection of the rights and the welfare of the child. Distinguished delegates, I would like to conclude my remark by reiterating the commitment of the United Republic of Tanzania to the EAC for the decisions related to children. We promise to work with other partner states to realize the desired goals of the region, particularly on the realm of children and other related sectors, such as social protection and the community development. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ndaki, for the brief and concise remarks. I think we've really run out of time. So, just 10 minutes. We pick some coffee and then bring it to our tables. Then, we can prepare and do the launch. Let's take and have a few remarks and then do the launch. Yes, so it's 50 minutes. We shall resume at exactly midday.
That was a great party. Teacher said my costume was good. Even mine. The tailor stitched my cape. But just look at mine. Ooh-wee! I can tie to the top of the hill in 2 seconds. Whee!
Hey, be quiet, you kids. You're making way too much noise.
But that lady said we were allowed to play and nobody should stop us.
Only if you're not disturbing others. I can't hear what the miss saying. You're yelling so loudly.
But I'm Superboy! And I'm Supergirl. When I wave my arms, lollipops fall from the sky. Look! Hey, Tara, what did that lady say about 30 years? Those letters she wrote on the board. A-C. African
Charter. And there was a W. Welfare. That's being taken care of. A home, food, clothes.
Right.
Alright. Things we should be allowed to do. Like making decisions about our lives, and others should listen to us when we have something to say.
No, be quiet, Amundipo, all the time, and having time for ourselves to do the things we like doing.
Developing our talents.
African Charter for the Rights and Welfare of the Child. That was it. The government is in charge of our welfare and rights. And she said that African children's policy to help it work.
Yes. But still, there are rules, and the government's not doing anything to stop them.
I saw that on TV. Crowds of people carrying things on their head. Pushing little cars. All children sitting around them. Children getting lost in the panic.
Oh yes, refugees. My dad said some people came and kicked them out of their homes, saying they didn't want people like them living there. They spoke the wrong language, prayed in the wrong way, and all sorts of weird stuff like that. Just imagine.
Then they see that we Mr. Wali's class.
They wanted to by the wall, who didn't have a uniform?
Yes, seriously.
I'm getting my new uniform.
I got too big for it because I'm
Give it to him.
Oh, I guess I could. I'll ask my mom.
He has a sister.
More than uniforms. They didn't carry anywhere.
So can we come
on, John. We are superheroes. We have
Everything.
Why don't grown-ups ever think about what will happen to us children when they do things like that?
I wish other countries had a policy like the one for East Africa.
superheroes.
Children's rights.
This information is very important.
Right?
Look, here's Jabba.
Hi, Java. I missed you in school today. Where were you? I went to look for Talia. She's been away all week. Is she sick? No. Her mom got a baby, and her dad says she has to stay home to look after her little brother. Oh no. She missed the exams, and she looked like she can't first in class.
Like St. Khalid. His dad sent him home to look after the cows.
And his big sister was pulled out in standard 6 to get married. I wish we could help them.
But you can.
No, we can't. I didn't ask for opinion. Our teacher always says, put your head down. I didn't ask a question.
Mr. Juma's better. You know, he lets Kagema draw on the blackboard once a week to show what they've learned, because he's so good at drawing.
And if you finish your work quickly, he lets you out to play soccer, as long as you don't make noise near the classrooms. I can't wait to get into his class.
You are asking about rights just now. Those are some. The right to develop your talents and to have right to play. Mr. Juma must have read the charter.
What's that? One of those pictures with lists of food that's good for us?
No, those are charts. But the charter is a list. The Charter of Children's Rights is a list of all the things children should have and be able to do when they are grown up.
Like a good school bag? I'd like one like Sarah's.
Well, maybe. But there are some children who don't even have a sweater to wear when it's cold, or someone to look after them properly.
Like Jaluk, he lives with his grandmother, who's half blind. Parents have cooked ugali for lunch.
And lives in a place where there's rubbish everywhere. And someone's building on the only open space.
My dad says that and people only care about money. What about kids like us having anything to say? Our entire daddy moved me from that awful school with no playground to ours with a big field.
But Mama Shangwe, you can't help all these children.
No, you're quite right. There's so many that we have. That's why the African Union will set up a committee to protect children.
What's the committee?
It's a group of people who are given a job to do.
Like Mrs. K asked the three of us to organize our classroom workshop. So we made a list of the whole class celebrities.
And Sidney complained when he came on Fridays because he wanted to play football.
And Jackie used to sneak out.
When they start making remarks, because they are
People don't like doing what they're supposed to do. So all of us do our African Union.
What's that?
And try to make things better. In all the different countries, there are lots of people trying to make life better for children. And twice a year, they send someone to us to meet up with the committee and report about what's happening there and see what the African Union can do to help.
maybe they come and run for Kenya because the chair has to make remarks.
Don't say only children. There are things only children can see and do. So there is the challenge for you, Java. Find a way to talk to the grown-ups so that
It's not time. We don't have it.
Come this way. I'm saying I don't need to have one. Yes, for you will stand here. I stand there? Yes. And then
Let the lady
be ready.
and we balance.
Are we online now?
Yes.
Hello? Are we back?
They don't have this COVID.
Yes, are we back online?
About times.
Sure. Hello. How do we know Papa?
Oh, we look nice. It's
You have to smile.
Yeah. Somebody wants to smile for this.
Yes, hello. Can we get some responses to know that everyone is back?
They went for tea.
Yes, we are here. We are here and we are following you. And we can see the
Yes, we are also
beautiful
back.
that you're holding.
Maurice, we can see you and very
Yes.
nice book.
Here,
These are the reports.
Yes.
yes. So if you read on your programs, we are launching the East African report on child rights. I'm holding the report right here. It's a bulky report, so it will be easy for you to read. And inside, it's very nice. We have designed it and tried to make it child-friendly with a lot of pictures, infographics, so it's easy to follow. So since the report is for partner states, here we've decided that it's the partner states to launch it. And in front of us, we have representatives of the 6 partner states, and we have the chairperson of the Bureau from the Republic of Kenya, who is going to give us a remark and launch the report. Welcome.
Thank you, Maurice, for giving this noble opportunity to officially launch this important document. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, those here with us and those online, once again, I'm here. I'm George Barasa from the Republic of Kenya. And it's my pleasure indeed. I've listened to the presentations, and it is encouraging to note that there's plenty of progress. There's a lot of optimism on what is in stock for our children. And if indeed what we have had is followed through, we can only celebrate and believe and hope that our children's future is indeed secured. The report, we understand, I understand, I go through it, it is child friendly. And you know, children's motto is that if they're not enjoying, then they're not learning. So then I want to believe that they find the child friendly version quite interesting, and therefore they will learn. So with those remarks, I want to take this honorable opportunity to officially launch the East African report on child rights, officially launched today here in Dar es Salaam on the date of 28th May 2021. Thank you so much. The fireworks, but we are good to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. We like the fireworks and the champagne, but next time, probably, when we have the ability to do it. So I think we shall proceed with a few remarks, and we can have a few remarks from the ACPF, and they will be followed by Save the Children. We've already heard from the partner states, so we'll hear from the EAC Secretariat after. So, Rita from the African Child Policy Forum, you're welcome.
Thank you, Maurice. Dear delegates from the EAC Secretariat in the partner states, representatives from the UN agencies, international partner organizations, and civil society organizations. Thank you very much. This is an important report that came at a time when we're reflecting on the progress we've made as a continent on the implementation of the Charter, the African Charter of the past 3 decades. As alluded by Dr. Joanne, Yvonne, and the various speakers today earlier, although there is good progress, there is also so much work to do, especially around promoting the child policy, harmonizing it with the national child rights response, streamlining our communications between actors, and ensuring accountability for the policy's implementation. EAC has been one of the key partners for ACPF over the years, and we are extremely grateful for the fruitful collaboration in the development of this report that we launched just a moment ago. We are grateful for the technical and financial support of Save the Children towards the development of this report, but also to their sustained engagement and support over the years to ACPF, EAC, its partner states, in their efforts to strengthen the child rights governance, as well as protection systems, mechanisms, and so on. We'd also like to thank the EAC Secretariat, its partner states, particularly the ministries, departments, agencies in all the 6 countries, the UN agencies, international organizations, and CSOs, especially those within the interagency working group. For telling us your story, sharing your views, and also providing concrete recommendations. As ACPF, we are committed to continue working with the EAC and its partner states in providing our technical support to further accelerate the implementation of the child policy, both at the regional as well as national levels. We are keen on especially following up on some of these recommendations that came out of this report, and as well as this event, to make sure they're translated into concrete actions. We'll continue to create platforms as well as opportunities for learning and collaboration, not just between countries within the EAC, but also with other countries in other regional economic communities across Africa to bring better outcomes in the lives and well-being of our children. So I thank you, dear colleagues. Over.
Yes, Saba. You can.
Yes.
Saba, you're speaking. You're muted.
No, I was not, Maurice.
Did you hear Maurice?
Yes.
The remarks. I have just finished. So.
But we didn't hear the last part. If you could kindly repeat.
Okay.
You broke off.
Okay. The last part, I said ACPF is committed to working with the EAC and its partners in providing our technical support to accelerate the implementation of the child policy. We are keen on following up on the recommendations from the report, as well as at this event, excellent event today, to make sure that those commitments are translated into concrete actions. Those recommendations are translated into concrete action. So we'll continue to support these efforts, create platforms, opportunities for learning and collaboration among countries within the EAC, but also with other countries in other regional economic communities across Africa. So that was my last point. Thank you, Maurice. I hope you heard this slide.
Yes, we have. Thank you so much, Rita, for the wonderful remarks. And I think we can now proceed to the remarks from Madam Waringa Nganga from Save the Children. Waringa, you're welcome.
Waringa said she cannot seem to unmute her microphone. So probably another speaker can come in and then we'll check.
Oh, we shall do what we did. Host briefly, then she can make us host after.
Yes, perfect. Can you do that from your end, Maurice?
Yes, we can. Yeah, now it's okay. I think it's not possible from our side. There must be an issue with Zoom on her side.
Waringa, can you try now? Can you try to speak? Okay.
Yes, now it's possible.
Okay, if it's possible. Now you can check Waringa. They have given you access.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad we were able to work out the audio. Yeah, very glad to join you this afternoon. I think technically it's the afternoon. As Maurice said, my name is Waringa. I'm heading the regional programming unit at Save the Children, and I'm very glad to be part of this very great occasion this afternoon. So the Deputy Chair, the Deputy Secretary, General Productive Sectors, representatives of the EAC partner states, regional directors and heads of child rights organizations, EAC Secretariat, Save the Children, ACPF staff, regional CSOs, all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm greatly honored to be here today with you during this special occasion, launching this report of the midterm review of the implementation of the EAC child policy. Indeed, it's a great occasion where we're able to stop and take stock and see what has been achieved and have a forward-looking plan. On behalf of Save the Children, I thank you all for finding time amidst your busy schedules to attend this event. As we launch the EAC child policy report, I want to appreciate the productive relationship. Okay, sorry, so just a minute, sorry. I want to appreciate the productive relationships that the children and other child rights CSOs have enjoyed in working with the EAC. Our engagement to the EAC dates back in 2012, actually, during the first EAC Child Rights Conference, where Save the Children supported the participation of children who made a strong call for regional child policy. We have since worked very closely with the EAC to develop the EAC child policy, adopted in 2016, and jointly supported its implementation through our country offices and our regional offices. Indeed, there's been quite a few achievements that we've registered in collaboration with yourselves, agencies in the room, and different member states. Mostly collaboration. The first is the adoption and publication of the EAC child policy. We've also been able to have consultations with children and development of child-friendly versions of the EAC child policy. We have jointly conducted various studies on the harmonization of children's laws in the region, the baseline survey and a situational analysis on the state of child rights in all EAC partner states. We have coordinated, we have a coordination of regional CSO networks, notably the Interagency Working Group on the EAC Child Policy and the Regional Child Protection Network. We have witnessed collaboration between the EAC and other regional economic communities regarding child rights and the engagement of the Africa Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. We have also seen development of a regional framework to strengthen for strengthening child protection systems and community mechanisms in the EAC, a roadmap on the strengthening of child protection systems and cross-border collaboration to respond to the needs of migrant and refugee children in the Eastern Horn of Africa. We have also seen the development of a COVID-19 response, mitigation and adaptation plan for children and young people in the EAC. We've supported the development of the minimum standards on comprehensive services for children and young people in the EAC, in the East African community, and also developed a monitoring, evaluation, and reporting framework to enable partner states to report on time on the implementation of their commitments to children. And we are currently in the process of developing and implementing an inclusive and comprehensive child participation strategy and have already developed a facilitator's guide on the EAC child policy, amongst others. So this has been achieved, definitely we did not do this alone. It has been achieved through the technical and moral support of our ever-present partners, including the African Children's Policy Forum, the child rights experts in the EAC partner states, other partner CSOs, and the Children's Department at the EAC Secretariat. I therefore conclude my remarks by thanking all the stakeholders for a job well done in the last 5 years. Based on the findings of the review study, we're starting a new journey, a journey where we will have to redefine how we work amidst the COVID-19 situation. Let's just take the challenge and continue to promote innovative modalities that deliver outcomes for our children. Save the Children continues to be committed to this fruitful relationship, and we hope that we'll be able together to achieve a world where every child attains their right to survival, protection, development, and participation. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much, Waringa, for the remarks and the insights you've given us, especially of the history we've had working together with the Interagency Working Group, but especially the leadership we've enjoyed from the Save the Children and the African Child Policy Forum. So just briefly about the Interagency Working Group, we have 10 agencies which we work with closely and which we've worked with since 2012, just after the Bujumbura Conference on Child Rights. And we did a call to action, and that call to action is the one which instigated the whole process of developing the child policy. And we've remained with all these agencies throughout the implementation process over the last 5 years, and I'm sure we'll keep with them. They are strong agencies. Some are networks throughout the region, East Africa, in the East African community, in SADC, in IGAD. And again, we also work closely with the African Union, as I mentioned, and the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. So we have really strong partners, and that's why we've made wonderful progress in this area of child rights. And we hope that we can even encourage other sectors to learn and adopt this collaborative approach that we've adopted together with governments, civil society organizations, and all stakeholders. And so before we close, I will recognize the presence of one of our civil society coalitions in the EAC, the East Africa Child Rights Network. They traveled to come and be with us in Salaam. I think you will wave to the Mr. Ben Omiro, will wave to you, and we are happy to have you attend this. I'm sorry, I want to give you a chance to speak because we've run out of time, but probably next time we will be able to share with us. So we have come to the end, and as we close, I call upon Madam General Minani to give us closing remarks from the EAC Secretariat. Madam General Minani is the head of the department that deals with child rights and among other issues. So I think she can come and give us her remarks. Welcome, Madam General. Yes, Madam Generals, you can now join us. I think there was a challenge.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Sorry, that we had unmuted you, but we can now hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Maurice, for this facilitation. Distinguished delegates, I'm so happy that we are closing very well our conference today. As Maurice had already introduced me, I'm Generous Minani, head of department dealing with child issues and many other priority areas like gender and community development. So it's on behalf of EAC that I am really honored to give these closing remarks, and with a very great appreciation to the United Republic of Tanzania for always accepting to host our meetings, conferences, and other activities, because in other countries we may face some challenges. So I take again this opportunity, like my previous speaker from EAC had said, to thank all our partners, first of all, interagency working groups all, and particularly for this particular conference, we take this opportunity to thank ACPF and Save the Children for always being on our side. The record we are having today to implement successfully our EAC child policy, the 10 priority areas, as we saw it, how our partner states are progressing in implementing these priorities, we really do rely on their support. I think Maurice had said it just now. We cannot close this meeting or conference without recognizing that the docket of children in EAC is the one in this department is the one very well progressing, because we have supporters. So the child policy we have in EAC is a very participatory tool. So as we are closing, we are calling or inviting other stakeholders. We did not close the chance to only those 10 organizations, but we still have call others to join us to implement very well this policy, so that our children can be well prepared to go to another step with a good package to face any challenge they may have when they will be in the youth sector. So it's really very important for EAC as a region and with all our stakeholders to know that we need to work together so that our children's well-being can be recorded very well. Children on move cannot, one country cannot handle the matter, but all countries need to collaborate fully. We can even go across our region because these children are not limited to the region, EAC region. They can move beyond this region. So we need a mechanism where these children can be traced, where we can say this one is from this region. And we do need to all together use a do no harm approach, because without this approach, children can be highly affected and they become with a very strange behavior. So we needed to handle the matters of children smoothly, and we needed to cope with the situation we are in. For instance, this COVID situation, we need to cope as well and take care of our children in all angles. So our main focus today was the launch of our mid-review report, and we are happy that we realized or we noticed the progress in implementing our 10 priority areas. We still need more effort together to achieve the remaining work. I can really say that we have great appreciation because all 10 priority areas, there is something already done. And we are proud of our partner states again, because we realize that there are so many opportunities or tools we have that can really push this agenda successfully. So EAC monitoring and evaluation tool that is going to help all partner states to report on time will help us to move according to a good time, a framework, a time frame, so that we can assess and do tangible and implementable recommendations. Together, we will be proud of the success we record. And we are also closing by saying that we need to always be together to share experience, to share challenges, to share gaps, to share everything on the way we are moving, so that where it's possible, we solve problems together. Where it's not for one country to do ABC, when we are together, we can achieve a lot. So once again, I thank our partners who are managing any effort who are making all efforts to ensure that child well-being, child rights are really a focus for this region. Thank you all participants in this conference. Thank you, our development partners. Thank you all who are joining us in this journey. Thank you for all those who are taking care of children, whether in this region or any other region, whether at home, at school, wherever a child is, whoever he is, with disability, in rural area, in urban, whoever he is or she is, please let us join our hands together and we can achieve a lot, and we'll be proud of, in the next 5 years to come, we will be saying that we really achieved a lot of things together. So with these remarks, I'm saying that we once again thank you, and those who are take journey back home, among those who are present in this meeting, I wish you very safe journey, and as a region, we will continue to communicate the level of any step we are in. Thank you all. May God bless you.
Thank you so much, Madam Generals, for the closing remarks. And with this, we only have one agenda item, which is on the way forward, which I will give, and then we end the conference. So the way forward is in terms of what we do now with this report. So we've printed copies in English, but we have designed and published other copies in French and in Swahili. So we shall share the online versions in French, Swahili, and English. Then the copies that we printed, we also need to distribute them. So probably we will have to discuss with the partner states copies, and also probably with the East African Child Rights Network on how we can distribute to the civil society organizations and also the agencies. So please write to us, and we discuss these copies. We have enough. But the report is big, 2 country briefs. So we also have briefs for the situation in each partner state. And this is meant to take us to the next level of the conversation, where we shall go to the partner states and discuss those findings per partner state. So this is a regional launch, but we are planning to go to the partner states. It's only this situation of the COVID-19 restrictions that may bar us, but we shall work through, because today we've demonstrated that we can do a hybrid event, both physical and online. As you can see, we've managed to distance ourselves. We've separated ourselves into different rooms, and also separated created space for us. We are all wearing masks, apart from me who is talking and those who are eating. But otherwise, we've observed all the SOPs, and this is also to prove that we can do these meetings even at national level. So it's just to pray that the delegates going back home, you return negative tests. We are very interested in your tests, and actually, if you can also send us your certificates upon reaching home, so that we prove that you are safe and you arrived safe. So thank you very much, all of you who attended online. We really had good participation from online, and also the physical attendees, especially from Dar es Salaam, those who have come to join us, and we appreciate, and we shall keep in touch. So the webinar has already been closed. It's just me to say thank you and bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Maurice. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Oh, it's just nice.
Thank you.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you, all participants. Thank you very much.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, friends. So that you can close on this. Just give it to me. We will catch those soon. I'm joking.
Secretariat, which